The Public Service Commission has launched the constitutional values and principles under the theme Building a Value-Driven Public Service Through Ethical Leadership for Service Delivery. The PSC is mandated by the Constitution to, among others, promote constitutional values and principles that are governing public administration as set out in the Section 195 of the Constitution throughout the public service. Let us now take this discussion further. We are joined now from our studios in Pretoria by Michael Seloane. He is Commissioner at the Public Service Commission. As I said, he's live now from our studios in Pretoria. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Seloane. Thank you so much indeed for joining us here on SA Today. Now, let us first look at the significance of these constitutional values and principles.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the viewers. The significance of this is that it's 24 years into democracy and 22 years since the Constitution was adopted. The Public Service Commission has observed over these years, the 22 or 24 years, that whilst people understand the Constitution, especially in the public service, they still ignore implementation of it. And we have realized that all this behavior was caused by no consequences to non-implementation. So the Public Service Commission, together with UNISA and Moral Regeneration Movement, decided to launch the constitutional values and principles so that we must promote these values and principles not only in the public service but throughout the country as a whole, so that the citizens who elect leadership and appoint the public service should understand how public service operate, and that they must hold it accountable. So we concluded the launch at UNISA, working together, as I've indicated, the Moral Regeneration Movement and UNISA. And then, because this month is a public service month, and at the same time, Heritage Month, so we had the opportunity to be addressed by the Minister of Public Service and Administration, Ms. Ayanda Dlodlo, and the Minister of Arts and Culture, Mr. Mthethwa, on the issues of heritage and public service.
Yes.
It was also addressed by the MEC of Transport in Gauteng on behalf of the Premier of Gauteng, and also by Mr. Stofile on behalf of the President of SALGA and the Ambassador of European Union, Dr. Conaro. And then the highlight of the launch was the signing of the pledge to implement constitutional values and principles. And this pledge was signed by, amongst others, Dr. Cassius Lubisi, Director General in the Presidency, Advocate Sizane of Public Service Commission, Ms. Ayanda Dlodlo, Mr. Nathi Mthethwa, Mr. Dr. Ismail Vadi, Professor Makanya of UNISA, Father Smangaliso Mkachwa. They all signed this constitutional values, the pledge to implement the constitutional values and principles.
Now, Commissioner, we've had the Batopili principles since 1997, wherein citizens, should be consulted about the level and the quality of public services they receive, and wherever possible should also be given a choice about the services that are offered. But the truth of the matter is South Africans, many of them, are still experience awful services in the hands of some public servants. So how are these CVPs different from the Batopili principles that we have?
Yeah. But Batopili principles are based on the constitutional values and principles. So in the pledge, we're saying that we need to champion implementation of all constitutional values and principles, not only the 9, but all of them included in the Constitution, including intergovernmental principles, including security principles. So Batopili, if properly implemented, there would be no need for service delivery protests. So that's why at the moment we are working very hard to make sure that there are consequences for not implementing what you are expected to do. So all civil servants are employed to perform a particular function. And some of them have not been performing optimally, and nothing was happening in that regard. So now those who are not performing will either be empowered to perform that job if ever they need the necessary skills, and if ever it's out of negligence or gross negligence, then they will have to face the consequences for not implementing them.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the consequences.
It is not enough to work only on the punitive measures. It's important to promote good behavior and good performance. So this launch is more about promoting good behavior. But in assessing departments, will make sure that those who do not perform are facing the consequences for that.
All right. I wanted to come to the issue of the consequences, Commissioner Seloane. I heard you earlier saying that a pledge was signed by the ministers, the DGs, which are your principals. What about your ordinary public servants who provide service delivery to the ordinary South Africans? Will they also be signing the pledge?
Yes. Dr. Quesias Luisi, Director General in the Presidency, who is also the Secretary to Cabinet, he signed on behalf of all public servants. And by the way, public servants are bound by the Code of Conduct, which is enshrined in the Public Service Regulations. And that Code of Conduct is about implementation of the constitutional values and principles. So the way they are written, they are supposed to be binding on those officials in the public service.
All right.
And if they don't perform, then they must face the consequences. As you would remember, in the past few months, the Public Audit Act was amended to ensure that when the Auditor General has made a finding that there was irregular expenditure, then he can make use of the law to hold that official accountable. He doesn't have to wait only for the legislature to act. So, and also with the Public Service Regulation, Public Service Commission Act, in case there are officials who have appointed people in an irregular manner, the Public Service Commission can direct the minister or the MECs to correct the situation. And those directions are binding on the departments. So the next coming year or two, we will be ensuring that at all times there are consequences for non-performance.
All right, we have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming through. Many thanks there to Mr. Seloane. He is, of course, a commissioner from the Public Service Commission, talking to us about the constitutional values and principles that were launched earlier today in order to enhance service delivery to ordinary South Africans.